2024 was a fantastic year for Wargames, but I think 2025 might be even better. In this video, we're going to look at 5 games that I think you guys should check out. Halo Flashpoint is a fast but surprisingly tactical skirmish wargame set in the hit video game franchise. It shares an awful lot of DNA with Dead Zone, using, for example, the same slick movement system, which is absolutely perfect for game modes like Slayer and Capture the Flag. Halo Flashpoint is a lot more than a simple reskin, however. Thanks to weapon drops, respawns, and some clever game modes, the game manages to strike a really clever balance. On the one hand, you feel like you're playing a war game, but on the other hand, it's like you're sitting on the sofa next to your buddy, trying to pummel him with a gravity hammer. There are 2 starter boxes that give you everything you need to start playing. The Recon Edition is stripped back to 2 teams of 4, whereas the Spartan Edition gives you more terrain and a bigger range of models. And the models are really nice. They come fully assembled and with enough chunk that they're fun to paint. Plus, Spartan warriors are big lads. These are nice, hefty models, and you really feel that as you move them around the board. The scenery is also great, fully reversible and easy to break down if you're worried about storage. The first print run for Halo Flashpoint has sold incredibly well, which means you shouldn't have any trouble finding people to play the game with. Mantic has also announced the next wave of releases, and there is talk of the Covenant, and that has me really excited. I think that in 2025, Halo Flashpoint will be a game to watch. Whilst the Middle-earth strategy battle game has maintained a loyal following for this many a year, there are plenty of gamers who think that it's been a neglected property. With the release of a brand new rulebook, along with a new box set, a new movie, and the prospect of some more films in the coming years, all of this may be about to change. The changes that have been made to the game are subtle but really well thought out. This is the same game that's maintained a dedicated player base since the turn of the century, but with a few corners knocked off and 1 or 2 sensible additions. It's evolution rather than revolution. Examples include a much needed change to the priority rule, allowing the winning player to choose whether or not to go first in a round, clearer unit profiles, more balanced monster attacks, and tweaks to the heroic action rules that provide more interesting tactical choices for players. Overall, the designers have lent heavily into the thematic nature of the game, encouraging players to use recognisable armies from the books and films. I'm a really fluffy player myself, so I really like this. Middle-earth is chock full of recognisable locations, whether it's Weathertop or the ruins of Osgiliath. So playing out these iconic battles with a new edition of the game promises to be a lot of fun. Of course, just as important as these new rules is the prospect of a range refresh. The new Rohirrim kits are lovely, but they really do serve to highlight just how basic some of the older kits look. I'm pretty sure that in 2025 we're going to see some new plastic kits from GW and a bounce in popularity for this game. Maladum Dungeons of Enveron is a fantastic game that's part dungeon crawler, part skirmish wargame. The guys at Battle Systems have done a fantastic job of packing everything you need into the starter set, whilst leaving the game open for an almost infinite amount of expansion. The game offers several different ways to play. Firstly, each player can control a single character in a co-op dungeon delve. Experience points, status effects, and equipment are tracked using one of these handy boards. Alternatively, each player can take control of an entire warband. Played this way, the game becomes a lot more competitive, a lot more like a traditional war game, because each of your gangs is competing for the same objectives and the same loot, which delightfully are hidden inside these interactive terrain features. Now, I've played this game with some pretty experienced gamers, but I can assure you, as they pop open these chests and empty the goodies out into the palm of their hand, they were grinning like 12-year-old kiddies. As a game progresses, different warbands may well decide to help each other out. The Dungeons of Enveron are not an easy place to explore, but there are no guarantees, and you could just as easily end up with a knife in the back. which means that the end of every game is incredibly tense. Keeping your party from one scenario to the next creates a really interesting, evolving narrative that reminds me of games like Frostgrave or Necromunda. Because I backed the Kickstarter, I have access to this. A truly awesome selection of extra scenery. In fact, I could play this game every week for months on end and never feel like I was duplicating a layout. Everything about Maladum is beautifully produced, whether it's this lavish rulebook, lovely models, or the quite simply stunning scenery. It's all great. So, with its slick rules, versatility, and exceptional production quality, Maladum Dungeons of Enveron is another game that I recommend looking out for in 2025. The Drop universe is one of my favourite wargaming worlds, with a developing narrative that gets better and better. With the release of Drop Fleet Commander 2nd Edition, a game that was already lots of fun but tended to run a little long, has been streamlined and improved in all sorts of ways. There are 6 very distinct fleets in Drop Fleet Commander: the UCM, the Scourge, the Shaltari, the PHR, the Resistance, and the Bioficers. With the launch of the 2nd edition, lots of models have shifted over to plastic, and the quality and design of these is, in my opinion, among the best in wargaming. Here's my Scourge fleet surfing near orbit like interplanetary sharks. The rules for the game, along with the stat cards for all of the ships, are available for free on TT Combat's website, which I always think is a great way to attract new players. It's also worth pointing out that behind the scenes, plans are afoot to keep developing the Drop universe with new games at new scales. So whether it's Drop Fleet Commander, Drop Zone Commander, or Strike Team Commander, the Drop universe is somewhere that you might want to play some games in 2025. My final game to watch for 2025 is Trench Crusade. This is a game that already has a dedicated following, but after a stellar Kickstarter, the player base is going to explode. With its fascinating alternate history, beautifully realised with some stunning, if slightly disturbing, artwork, Trench Crusade is already an immersive gaming world. What really strikes me though is the old school vibe, with the designers of the game encouraging lots of conversion work and the use of third-party models. With its grim and gritty style, focus on small warbands and narrative campaigns, Trench Crusade reminds me a lot of Mordheim, which is hardly surprising given that the game's rules are designed by the same person, Thomas Perennen. He thinks that this is the best game he's ever designed, and I'm pretty sure that in 2025, a lot of people are going to be playing it. Those are my 5 hot games for 2025. If you've got ideas of your own, please pop them in the comments. I'll be interested to read them. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If so, please consider hitting the like or subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon. And until then, keep rolling.